I have been watching quite a few videos on YouTube. You got obviously Anthony Chaffee, Dr. Ken Berry. One of the ones I watch is Old Man Carnivore, and there's many others. And there is a thing out there where you get quite a few carnivore people, not just the doctors and the scientists and the experts, but also people with big carnivore channels. And they're almost, I would say, almost offended if you don't just eat meat, eggs, fish, fatty meat, salt, water. And if you do anything other than that, you're not a carnivore and you've basically failed. So to me, I've been on the carnivore diet for 10 months. Well, I'm probably getting on to 11 months. One second, let me just turn up. Right. And I will say this, a big part of the struggle on the carnivore diet is how to stick to it, how to not give up. Because don't forget, when you first go on the carnivore diet, but just so you know, a little bit of background, I'm 56, I'm 57 in July, and the reason I went on the carnivore diet is because my stomach had ballooned and I had health issues. The main reason was to lose weight. I'm not going to lie to you. And I'll talk to you about the health benefits in a minute. But the problem I have is you start the carnivore diet. You've given up sugar. You've given up bread. You've given up sweets, chocolates, grain, obviously sugar in your tea and coffee, carbs, rice, pasta. I'm just trying to think now. Pizzas, spaghettis, and cakes and donuts, fizzy drinks, alcohol. You're giving everything up. You start to eat your meat and eggs and fish. Obviously, a lot of fat from your meat, which is obviously massively good for you. And you are bombarded with loads of thoughts. Can you turn it right down, please? My little boy's there on the TV. Just keep it turned right down so I can talk to these people without hearing the TV. Thanks. It's Tino. He's only 3, and he's going to football this morning with his grandmother. So anyway, with Leslie. Yeah, with Nanny. Right, I got my tea. Now look, I have milk in my tea. I don't have sugar. Now many carnivores will go, oh, well, that's not carnivore because it affects ketosis and there's side effects. Turn it down a bit more, please. Anyway, so Tino, you have to turn it low, otherwise they can hear it over here. Anyway, now a bit more than that, please. A bit more. That's it. There we go. Win-win. Now don't turn it back up because this speaker on this picks up the sound of it. Anyway, so there's a dilemma here. We want to lose weight. We want to get our health back. We don't want to go back to all the horrible foods. So, breads and sweets and chocolates and all the rubbish that we all know instinctually what the bad foods are. I think we're so badly educated by the world that there's a lot of foods that are very bad for us that we actually think are good for us. And a big example of that is vegetables and salads and fruits, because of oxalates and fruits got way too much fructose and sugar in them. But generally, we know what is bad for us. And we know eating too much of anything can be bad for us, but not too much of meat and eggs and fatty meat and eggs and fish. Because your body, once your body is full to the correct level and it knows how to keep an eye on when you're ready to eat next, your body will just let you know, I've had enough meat now, I've had enough fat now, stop eating. But it takes a while before you get to that point, before you get fat adapted. But anyhow, I'm going off subject. How do we stick to this diet? How do we start a diet like this where we've literally given up 95% of our foods and stick with it? Because psychologically, there's a lot of things happening where you're craving everything that you've spent your whole life eating. You're also questioning the diet. You're also saying, I don't want to eat loads of fat. I don't want to eat loads of meat. And you almost feel like you're going to grow sick of the meat because you're eating so much of it. So many of the people I've seen that have given up, they get to a point where they just can't bear the sight of meat anymore. They can't look at steak or pork or chicken, and the fat sickens them. Now, how do we get past this? Because this is part of the adaptation where you're adapting to getting used to eating the new diet. Now, I think in the beginning, when people first start this diet, the willpower is very strong. It's like starting a low calorie deficit diet. The willpower is what gets you to lose the weight. You're constantly hungry. And I think even with carnivore, at first, you're still very hungry and you're still craving eating, regardless of what it is, whether it's meat or whether it's a salad or whether it's a chocolate bar. So this is how it worked for me. So the first month I was very good. I had to use my willpower, and I did a 24-hour fast. But when I did eat, I filled myself right up with meat, fatty meat, eggs, fish. I was having cheese, some nuts, which again isn't carnivore. And what I found was I was so pleased that I'd stopped eating all the bad foods, all the carbs, that I could see that my health was improving. My energy levels had shot up very quickly. Surprisingly, my ulcerative colitis completely stopped. So my toilet habits went completely back to normal very quickly. But you're still going through this phase where you're going to parties, or where you're going to your kids' birthday parties, or you're in a supermarket and you're surrounded by all the foods that are bad for you and the drinks that are bad for you, like fizzy drinks, and you're still craving. And I found after about a month, you hit a brick wall where you're sort of thinking, do I really want to stick with this diet? You've seen the benefits. I lost 1.5 stone within a few weeks. I knew I was much better, but I also felt a bit odd because everyone around me was eating the other food. I was the odd one out. Anyone I spoke to about the diet was basically saying to me, you're going to die of a heart attack because cholesterol's going to kill you. Yeah. And enough people say it to you where you start wondering, you start doubting the diet. So then you start Googling and going on YouTube and doing your research. And there are thousands and thousands of posts that are saying, do not eat too much meat because it can cause heart attack and strokes. Cholesterol is really bad for you. So you've really got a lot of pressure. You go and see your doctor, and pure coincidence, I went to see a nurse yesterday and she took my bloods, and and I mentioned my diet to her. I call it keto because I find when you say carnivore, there's a bit too much of a reaction. So I say keto, which allows a little bit of low carbs and nuts. And the first thing she said to me was, aren't you worried about having a heart attack? Aren't you worried about cholesterol? How do you not eat all those foods in the real world? And I was trying to sort of tell her how I get through it. And they just don't believe you. And I think they think you're a bit crazy. They think, why are you eating loads of stuff that's bad for you? Because they think fatty meat, eggs, butter is bad for you. So I wasn't going to change her mind. And she's an NHS, a National Health Service worker. So I probably felt like I was telling her how to suck eggs. Anyway, my point is, all of these doubts are at you constantly, all the time. So obviously, I'm not snacking at all. I'm having very long gaps between the time I eat next. I eventually, after a month, was eating twice a day. So I was having eggs and bacon at lunch, which I still do now, and having my steak and ribs at night. So I was eating twice a day, and then I was having these long gaps. Now, what I found was as my body adapted to the fat and not eating these foods, that I actually, my hunger craving massively reduced. But what I did notice is to help my hunger craving, every now and then, Tina, you have to be quiet, remember I'm talking. I'm going to have to beat my son. Anyway, I just have my tea with milk. Every now and then, I would have some nuts. And I found that would give me a bit of relief. Every now and then, I would have some strawberries or some blackberries. But Tina. Every now and then, he's only 3 years old, but I could sort of lock him outside the house. What do you reckon? Would that work? Anyway, so every now and then, I would have these little things that would get me by. So the nuts or a bit of or an apple. Now you go on Carnivore and it will say to you, "Oh, you mustn't have apple. That's not Carnivore. You mustn't have blackberries, strawberries. You mustn't have nuts. Nuts are bad for you. There's oxalates in nuts." So this is my advice on my experience of the carnivore diet is sometimes you do need some kind of relief. If you're 98% sticking to the diet and eating your fatty meat and fish, eggs, and you've given up all the the fizzy drinks and the alcohol, and you're not eating all the main bad foods, which is basically bread, pasta, rice, potato, obviously sweet chocolates, sugar. I personally, my advice to you, it's okay to have one piece of fruit. When I say one piece, an apple, a peach. Not too many, just one. It's okay to have a handful of nuts. If you put a bit of milk in your tea, it's okay to have a tea with a bit of milk. You're not even supposed to drink tea or coffee, a lot of carnivores say. And I say no. You do need a bit of relief, especially when you're starting out in the first 3-4 months. Now, if eventually you get to a point where you're adapted so well and you don't want to have any effect on weight loss, because I do think this, when you eat a bit of fruit, when you have a tea with milk, or when you have a coffee with, I have butter in my coffee, I do find that the weight loss slows right down. And I found where I've got this slight compromise where I will allow myself to have a few grapes or an apple, the weight loss stays. So I'm 10 stone today. Yesterday I was 10 stone 12, and I started. My weight was 12 stone 5 when I first started. So I have found that if you're a bit not 100% carnivore, you will find that your weight loss slightly reduces. And I noticed maybe my dandruff comes back just a little bit. It's nothing like it used to be. My dandruff used to be terrible. So there is, when you do a compromise, I don't think you get 100% of the benefits when there's a slight compromise. But I will say this, that from experience, I'm the experiment and how I'm doing this diet, that you still do see the massive benefits of energy levels shooting up, the anti-aging, the way your skin is getting smoother and your muscles are more defined and your body seems to lean out and you feel different inside. Your clarity of mind becomes much clearer, and you still do get all those benefits, all of them. And I'm 10, 11 months on, and through those 10, 11 months, I've had the odd bit of fruit, I've had a bit of milk, I've had some nuts. I'm still massively benefiting from this diet, and I still class myself carnivore, slightly keto. So I'm just going around in circles now, repeating myself. But this is my advice to you guys out there. If you're on the carnivore diet and you're struggling and you're thinking of giving up the diet because you don't feel normal, because you feel like you're missing out, or just because your willpower isn't strong enough. All right, I'm just on the live. Right, my daughter's coming in. If you feel, if it's going to make you, if having a slight compromise, so having a tiny bit of low carb veg or a few nuts or a bit of milk in your tea and coffee, or even a sweetener. I mean, I'm against sweeteners because I think they make you feel hungry all the time, so I don't use sweeteners. But if it's going to make you stick to the diet and to get through a tough patch, my advice to you guys is no, you don't have to stick to it 100%. If you've got the famous YouTubers, the famous carnivore channels, the big YouTube carnivore channels, saying to you, you must stick to just fatty meats, salt and water, otherwise you're doing things incorrectly. I just don't agree with it, because I think ultimately we're just trying to get our health back, isn't it? That's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our health back, and the benefit is to lose weight as well. So it's okay to you can use the word cheat if you want, but if it's make or break on this diet, if it's like, I'm going to either give up the diet or there's going to be a slight compromise so that I sustain this diet and maintain this diet and keep going with this diet, do it. Have an apple, have some grapes, have a bit of milk, have some cheese. Because cheese isn't really, cheese can be problems. Even dairy can be a problem with carnivore, because a lot of these carnivore people say don't touch dairy, which I don't agree with. I think different people react to dairy in different ways. But dairy will definitely slow down your weight loss. That's the truth of it. So I'm going to end this video now. So the point of this video is, guys, it's okay to sway a bit off this diet if it means you stick with it. Sorry, just 1 second. Thanks, guys. All the best.